See that number at the bottom? I mean, seriously, even if you're extremely rich, why in the world would you buy that many lawnmowers? Yeah, I know, late episode again. There's been way too much stuff to do off the net, and it's taken me a lot longer to get everything going again than I expected. In any case, today's Ancient DOS game is Lawnmower, a game which you'd almost expect to be a joke, considering lawn mowing is one of the most hated chores on the entire planet. And while this isn't the only such game out there, it does do things in a bit of an interesting way. Unfortunately, it's one of those games you want to like, but can't, because the controls are bad. I mean, really, if the controls weren't such an issue, this game would probably be a million times better, even though it's pretty simplistic when it comes down to it. But hey, sometimes the simple games are the best ones. Lawnmower was created and released by Christopher Orr in 1987 and is a one-player arcade game. It runs in an 80 by 25 16-color text mode and uses the PC speaker for sound effects and music. As for its current release date, the game's always been freeware, but finding it can be a little tricky. The place I recommend getting it from is the DOS Games website at www.dosgames.com. Yeah, really simple game stats for a really simple game. I don't think I really need to explain what it is you're trying to do in this game. I mean, it's right in the title. All you're trying to do is mow lawns. The faster you can do it, and the fewer times you damage the mowers, the higher your score. Each time you clear a lawn, you move on to the next one. Of course, it's a little more in-depth than just running lines through the lawns. For starters, you have various obstacles to contend with, most of which simply cause damage to the lawnmower blade. When you take 10 hits of damage, the blade becomes useless, so you have to take the lawnmower back to the shed to replace the blade. Some obstacles, however, notably water, completely wreck the lawnmower on contact, meaning you have to take out a new one. If you run out of mowers, your game's over, but thankfully you can't run out of blades, so don't worry too much if you take any damage. Just remember that damage adds time to your time counter in the corner, reducing the amount of money you get once the lawn's clear. Two of the more interesting obstacles are the gopher and the dog. The gopher pops up in random spots and occasionally leaves holes behind. Hitting the holes simply causes damage, but hitting the gopher itself will wreck the mower. The dog, on the other hand, will basically wreck the mower on contact and chases you around the lawn. The faster you're going, the faster the dog runs too. Typically, so long as you keep an eye on where the dog is, it'll never catch you since you're always faster than it. And that is the only other thing to mention about the gameplay really, is your speed. You can adjust your speed from 1 to 9, with the higher numbers equating to faster speed. Going faster will let you clear out grass more quickly, but increases the risk of hitting things since you'll need to react faster. The controls are the major downfall of this game because they're a little tricky to handle and very unresponsive. Quite often you'll hit a key and it won't actually do anything, meaning you need to be extra careful when it comes to tight spots. I found that there is a bit of timing to it, so as long as you can get the timing down, you might be okay, but even then, you just have to miss the key press window ever so slightly and the key you press will simply not register. What makes this really confusing though is that the only way this problem can even happen, given the way that keyboards are handled by the BIOS and old DOS systems, the guy who made this game must have overridden the default keyboard handling, which would have been perfect for this game, and replaced it with his own, which clearly wasn't tested well enough given its tendency to miss keys. At the same time though, I have to wonder if this game is unfinished, because there's this really crazy bug where you actually skip levels. Basically, if you start on level 1, you'll skip to levels 3, 5, etc., whereas if you start on level 2, you'll skip to levels 4 and 6, etc. It's kinda weird that you don't go through all of them in order. The last thing I should probably mention about the controls is that they're based on that old Sierra system where instead of holding keys down, you press a key once to start moving in a particular direction, and you continue moving in that direction until you press another key or 5 on the numeric keypad to stop moving. And yes, since you use the numeric keypad, not the arrow keys, there is diagonal movement, which you actually need to take advantage of to clear some of the later levels. If Lawnmower wasn't so buggy and had a more convenient way of handling your mower speed rather than using the number keys at the top of the keyboard, I'd call this an underrated text mode game that everyone interested in old DOS software should take a look at. However, the bugs present really do hamper the gameplay to the point of frustration, so this is more so a game to play for curiosity's sake rather than for enjoyment. Setting the game up in DOSBox is super simple because you really don't have to do anything at all. Just leave cycle set to auto and you're good to go. Anywho, that's all for today's episode of Ancient DOS Games. I'm not going to stick with these small games forever, but just to make sure I can get myself back on track, next week will be one more. Though I'm not quite sure which game I should take a look at, so I'm going to leave it up to you guys to decide. Simply send your suggestions to adg@pixelships.com, and the first free DOS game to get suggested twice or more that isn't going to take me more than a couple hours to play through will be the game I review next week, so make sure you send in your suggestion as soon as you can.